The image before us is, at first glance, utterly conventional. It's a wedding portrait, the kind you'd expect to see framed on a mantelpiece, radiating an almost saccharine sense of marital bliss. The setting is idyllic, perhaps a sprawling, manicured garden bathed in the soft golden glow of a late afternoon sun, or the cobblestone courtyard of an ancient ivy-clad church, hinting at history and timeless romance. Every element, from the carefully arranged floral archway to the subtle dappling of light through distant trees, screams perfection. It's a scene meticulously crafted to capture the essence of a dream come true, a celebration of love, new beginnings, and a future brimming with shared happiness. At the heart of this picture, of course, are the bride and groom. Sarah, a vision in white, her gown a cascade of silk and lace, her veil a delicate cloud framing a face alight with what appears to be pure joy. Her eyes, sparkling with an emotion that could only be interpreted as love, are fixed on her new husband. Her smile is wide, genuine, a testament to the culmination of a journey she'd likely dreamt of since childhood. She embodies the archetypal happy bride, radiant and utterly captivating, every inch the picture of a woman embarking on the most cherished chapter of her life. Beside her stands Mark, the groom. Tall, impeccably dressed in a sharp, dark suit that hugs his frame just so. He exudes an air of confident sophistication. His hair is neatly styled, his jawline strong, and his smile mirrors Sarah's, broad and seemingly sincere. He has that quintessential leading man quality, the kind that makes you instinctively trust him, believe in his goodness, and understand why Sarah would fall so deeply in love. Together, they are the epitome of a perfect couple, their arms linked, their bodies angled slightly towards each other, creating a visual narrative of unity and devotion. They look, in every conceivable way, like they've stepped directly out of the pages of a high-end wedding magazine, a testament to enduring love and flawless taste. But then, as your gaze lingers, as you allow your eyes to drift past the immediate, overwhelming impression of happiness, a slight anomaly begins to surface. It's subtle, so subtle that you might dismiss it at first, attributing it to an odd angle or a trick of the light. Your eyes, drawn by an almost imperceptible discordant note, find themselves focusing on Mark once more. His smile, though still wide, now seems to hold a certain rigidity, a fixed quality that doesn't quite reach the expressive depths of his eyes. There's a faint, almost imperceptible tension around his mouth, a tightness that suggests his happiness is less spontaneous, more carefully constructed. And then your attention is snagged by his left hand. It's positioned behind his back, out of Sarah's direct line of sight, but partially visible to the camera. It's not simply resting there, it's clutched, almost aggressively so. The knuckles are visibly white, the fingers curled into a tight, almost convulsive grip. It's a detail so small, yet so profoundly unsettling. It's the kind of unconscious gesture that speaks volumes, a silent scream of internal conflict or suppressed emotion in an otherwise pristine tableau. It's just a feeling, a tiny detail that feels profoundly off, like a single sour note in an otherwise harmonious symphony. As you zoom in, mentally or literally, on that single aberrant detail, the unease grows. What is he clutching so tightly? Is it merely his own hand, a nervous habit perhaps? Or is there something else nestled within that clenched fist? A tiny sliver of something metallic begins to glint faintly from between his fingers, catching the light in a way that's too sharp, too deliberate to be accidental. It's not a ring, nor a boutonniere, nor any other innocuous wedding accessory. It's a small, dark shape partially obscured yet undeniably present. A shadow deepens around the object, making its exact form difficult to discern, but its presence is undeniable, an alien element in a scene of supposed purity. A shiver, faint but distinct, traces its way down your spine. It's not outright fear, not yet. But it's a gnawing sense of discomfort, a primal alarm bell ringing softly in the back of your mind. This tiny, almost invisible detail has irrevocably altered your perception of the entire image. The picture, which moments ago radiated warmth and joy, now feels tainted, infused with a chilling undercurrent. It's like finding a single, perfectly camouflaged, venomous spider nestled amongst a bouquet of fresh, innocent flowers. The beauty is still there, but it's now overshadowed by the lurking potential for something dark, something dangerous. It's a puzzle piece that, despite all appearances, simply does not fit the larger, idyllic picture. The perfect facade has cracked, revealing a sliver of something deeply unsettling beneath. What is Mark hiding behind his back? And why, in a moment meant to immortalize pure happiness and unwavering commitment, does this hidden object cast such a long, dark shadow over what should be the brightest day of Sarah's life? This seemingly innocuous wedding portrait, once a symbol of love, now transforms into a chilling enigma, a frozen moment pregnant with unspoken dread. What secrets does this perfect groom harbor, and how does this single hidden detail redefine the entire narrative of their love story, twisting it into something far more sinister than anyone could have ever imagined? Sarah, the radiant bride in the photograph, had grown up in the quiet, unassuming town of Willow Creek. It was a place where everyone knew everyone, where the rhythm of life was dictated by the changing seasons, and where the biggest excitement usually revolved around the annual town fair. Sarah herself was a gentle soul, a bit quiet, finding solace and expression in the arts. She loved to paint, her canvases often depicting the serene landscapes of Willow Creek, and she devoured old books, their yellowed pages transporting her to different worlds. Her family was her anchor, her loving parents, pillars of the community, and her spirited younger sister, Emily, who often tried to coax Sarah out of her shell. Their home was filled with laughter, the comforting scent of her mother's baking, and the quiet hum of contentment. Sarah's life, while not overtly dramatic, was rich in love and simple joys, a stark contrast to the unsettling undertones now emanating from her wedding picture. Then Mark arrived in Willow Creek. He was an outsider, a breath of fresh air in the small, insular community. He'd taken a job as a civil engineer for a new bridge project, a prestigious position that immediately lent him an air of importance. From the moment he stepped into the town's only cafe, where Sarah worked part-time, he was an undeniable presence. He was handsome, with an easy smile and eyes that seemed to hold a universe of charm. He spoke eloquently, laughed readily, and possessed a polished confidence that Willow Creek residents rarely encountered. He quickly, almost effortlessly, swept Sarah off her feet. It was a whirlwind romance, the kind that made the town gossips buzz with excited whispers, and the local newspaper feature a small article about the new dashing engineer and the beloved local artist. Their early courtship was a fairy tale, or so it seemed to Sarah and everyone around them. Mark was attentive to a fault, showering her with gestures that felt straight out of a romantic novel. Fresh flowers would appear on her doorstep every morning, their vibrant colors a testament to his devotion. He wrote her sweet poetic notes, tucked into her favorite books or left on her easel, praising her talent and professing his adoration. He remembered every small detail she mentioned, every preference, every dream, making her feel utterly seen and cherished. He planned elaborate dates, picnics by the Willow Creek Falls, stargazing sessions in remote meadows, and long walks where he'd listen intently to her every word. Everyone, from Sarah's parents to her closest friends, believed Mark was the perfect man for her, a sophisticated gentleman who had brought a new sparkle to their quiet Sarah's eyes. They were the epitome of a couple madly in love, their future together seemingly paved with gold. However, beneath the veneer of this perfect romance, subtle red flags began to emerge, almost imperceptibly at first. Mark, despite his charm, had a possessive streak. He'd gently discourage Sarah from spending too much time with her old friends, framing it as a desire to spend more quality time, just the two of them. "You know, darling," he'd say, his voice laced with affection, "I just cherish our moments together so much. Your friends can wait. We don't get this time back." He'd make small, seemingly innocuous comments about her clothes, suggesting she might look even more stunning in something a little less revealing, or a little more elegant. Her artistic pursuits, once celebrated, began to be subtly critiqued. "That painting is lovely, sweetie, but don't you think a more traditional subject might be more appealing?" he'd remark, always with a disarming smile, always framing his words as genuine care and concern for her image and her potential. Sarah, caught in the intoxicating glow of what she believed was true love, brushed these observations aside. She was so happy, so utterly consumed by Mark's attention, that she rationalized away any discomfort. She told herself that his possessiveness was merely a sign of how deeply he loved her, how much he valued their connection. His suggestions about her appearance or her art were simply him wanting the best for her, guiding her towards a more refined version of herself. If she felt a pang of guilt for neglecting her friends, or a flicker of unease about her hobbies being subtly reshaped, she attributed it to the natural adjustments of a new, intense relationship. Her friends, particularly Emily, noticed the shift, the increasing isolation, but Sarah always had an excuse, a loving explanation for Mark's behavior. She was, after all, so incredibly in love. The proposal was grand, exactly what Sarah, in her romanticized view of life, had always dreamed of. It happened under a sky full of stars, on a moonlit bridge overlooking Willow Creek, surrounded by a carefully orchestrated display of candles and rose petals. Mark dropped to one knee, a velvet box held aloft, and delivered a heartfelt speech that brought tears to her eyes. It was public, witnessed by a small, carefully selected group of their closest friends and family, all of whom cheered and cried with joy. Sarah said yes, her heart soaring, convinced that she was living out her own personal fairy tale. Yet even in that moment of overwhelming joy and affirmation, a tiny, almost imperceptible flicker of unease danced at the edge of her consciousness. It was a fleeting shadow, dismissed immediately as pre-engagement nerves, a natural reaction to such a monumental life change. But it was there, a whisper of doubt in the crescendo of celebration, a harbinger of the darkness that now lay hidden behind her perfect groom in that chilling wedding portrait. The wedding planning, rather than being a joyous collaboration, quickly became a suffocating exercise in control. Mark, who had once seemed so considerate, transformed into an unyielding dictator of details. He insisted on specific vendors, often rejecting Sarah's long-held preferences with dismissive waves of his hand. The florist Sarah had dreamed of since childhood was deemed unprofessional. The caterer, known for their exquisite local cuisine, was unrefined. He meticulously selected every color palette, every linen, every musical piece for the ceremony, often overriding Sarah's suggestions with a thinly veiled impatience that bordered on anger. If Sarah dared to voice a differing opinion or express a personal wish, he would respond with a cold, cutting silence that felt far more punitive than any shouted argument. He even dictated the guest list, crossing off names of Sarah's distant cousins or old acquaintances he deemed unimportant or not fitting our image, always framing it as wanting the day to be perfectly intimate for them. Sarah found herself increasingly isolated. Her friends, once a vibrant part of her daily life, began to fade into the periphery. Mark would often intercept calls from Emily or other close friends, claiming Sarah was busy or resting or simply unavailable. He would then forget to relay messages or twist their content, making Sarah feel as though her friends were being demanding or intrusive. "We don't need anyone else, darling," he would often murmur, wrapping her in his arms, his voice a soothing balm that masked a steel core of possessiveness. "We have each other. Isn't that enough?" And in her vulnerable state, desperate to believe in their perfect love, she would nod, pushing down the nascent pangs of loneliness and the unsettling feeling that a vital part of her world was slowly shrinking. He created a bubble around them, ostensibly for their love, but in reality, it was a cage, slowly closing in. The manipulation became more insidious, a subtle psychological warfare that chipped away at Sarah's self-worth and perception of reality. If she ever gathered the courage to bring up his controlling behavior, Mark would deftly turn it around, making her feel like she was being irrational, oversensitive, or even paranoid. "You're imagining things, darling," he'd say, his eyes wide with feigned concern. "I just want what's best for us, to ensure our day is everything you've ever dreamt of. Are you saying you don't trust me? That you don't believe in our future?" He would make her question her own memories, her own feelings. A cutting remark delivered in private would be vehemently denied later, leaving Sarah bewildered and doubting her sanity. "I never said that, Sarah. You must be mistaken. Perhaps you're just stressed with the wedding plans." He was gaslighting her, subtly eroding her sense of self, making her increasingly reliant on his version of reality. The strain began to manifest physically. Sarah, once vibrant and full of life, started to look a little tired, her eyes often shadowed, her movements a bit withdrawn. The sparkle that Mark had supposedly brought to her eyes had dimmed, replaced by a quiet anxiety. Her parents and Emily noticed the change, the way she now hesitated before speaking, the almost imperceptible flinch when Mark entered a room. They would ask if she was all right, if Mark was treating her well. Sarah, ever loyal and desperate to protect the image of her perfect relationship, would offer ready excuses. "Oh, I'm just stressed with work," and she'd say, or "We're just so busy with wedding plans, you know how it is." She'd force a smile, but the effort was visible, a thin mask over a growing unease. She was losing weight, her appetite dwindling, and her once bright artistic endeavors lay untouched, gathering a thin film of dust. Then came an incident that, while seemingly minor, sent a cold spike of fear through Sarah's heart. Mark had been particularly agitated after a disagreement with a vendor. Sarah, attempting to soothe him, had inadvertently mentioned a painting she was working on, a piece that was deeply personal and held immense sentimental value. His mood instantly shifted. Later that evening, in a fit of manufactured rage over a misplaced document, Mark accidentally knocked over her easel, sending the half-finished canvas crashing to the floor, tearing it beyond repair. He then acted as if it were a trivial mishap, offering a perfunctory apology without a trace of genuine remorse. "Oh dear, how clumsy of me," he'd said, his voice devoid of emotion. "It was just a painting, Sarah. You can always start another." The casual disregard for something so precious to her, coupled with the chilling coldness in his eyes, left her trembling. It wasn't just an accident, it felt deliberate, a calculated act of destruction designed to assert his dominance and remind her of his power. Another time, Sarah, feeling particularly overwhelmed, had managed to sneak a phone call to Emily, confiding her anxieties about Mark's increasing control. She spoke in hushed tones, her voice laced with fear. Later that day, Mark returned home, his presence radiating an almost palpable chill. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't confront her directly. Instead, he became intensely silent, his eyes following her every move with an unnerving intensity. For 3 days, he barely spoke, communicating only in monosyllabic answers, his face a mask of cold displeasure. The silence was deafening, the implied threat more terrifying than any outburst. It was a punishment, a demonstration of his displeasure, and a stark warning against seeking solace or advice elsewhere. Sarah learned, with a sickening lurch in her stomach, that she was truly alone in this. A knot of dread began to tighten in Sarah's stomach, a constant gnawing presence. She knew deep down that something was terribly wrong. The man she was about to marry was not the charming, loving person she had fallen for. He was a stranger, a puppeteer pulling her strings, and she was trapped in his elaborate, terrifying play. But she was too deep into it, too isolated, too emotionally and psychologically battered to see a clear way out. The wedding day, once a beacon of hope and joy, was now looming on the horizon like an inescapable storm, each passing moment bringing her closer to a fate she increasingly feared. The perfect picture, the perfect man, the perfect life, all of it was a carefully constructed illusion, and Sarah was beginning to see the cracks in the facade, just as the wedding portrait would one day reveal the terrifying truth hidden behind her groom's back. The day before the wedding dawned, oppressive and heavy, mirroring the turmoil in Sarah's heart. She was a mess of nerves, a tangled knot of fear and desperation that went far beyond the typical pre-wedding jitters. She felt utterly trapped, caught in a web woven so intricately she couldn't see the threads, let alone find an escape. Every breath felt shallow, every thought a frantic search for a way out of a situation that had become a gilded cage. The grand romantic gestures of Mark's courtship now seemed like the bait that had lured her into this suffocating reality. In a desperate attempt to break through Mark's imposed isolation, Emily, Sarah's spirited younger sister and closest confidant, managed to slip away from the bustling wedding preparations for a private moment. She found Sarah in her childhood bedroom, staring blankly at her reflection, a beautiful but hollow-eyed stranger looking back. Emily, her face etched with worry, tried one last time to reach her. Her voice was gentle but firm, filled with a raw concern that cut through Sarah's haze. She spoke of how different Sarah had become, how the light in her eyes had dimmed, how Mark's presence seemed to cast a shadow over everything. Emily recounted subtle instances of Mark's controlling behavior that Sarah had brushed off, painting a picture of a gradual, insidious takeover Sarah had been too close, too in love to fully comprehend. Initially, Sarah's defenses flared. She still felt an ingrained need to protect Mark, to justify her choices, to cling to the illusion of their perfect love. She mumbled excuses, attributing her changes to wedding stress, to the natural evolution of a serious relationship. But Emily's words, spoken with such unwavering love and painful honesty, planted a seed of doubt that began to sprout in the fertile ground of Sarah's growing fear. Emily didn't accuse. She simply observed, describing the Sarah she knew and loved versus the withdrawn, anxious woman before her. Sarah found herself listening, truly listening to the litany of small, unsettling incidents she had so diligently ignored or rationalized away. The missed calls from friends, the subtle criticisms, the cold silences, the shattered painting. Each memory resurfaced, no longer isolated events, but pieces of a chilling mosaic. The carefully constructed facade of Mark's charm began to crack, revealing the sinister architecture beneath. Throughout the day, Mark's pressure was relentless, a constant digital leash. His calls and texts were incessant, ostensibly filled with loving messages, but each word felt like a tightening band around Sarah's chest. "Thinking of you, my love. Can't wait to make you my wife. Just checking in, making sure my beautiful bride is resting." The words were sweet, but the underlying tone was possessive, almost threatening. He wasn't checking in, he was checking up. He knew her schedule, her location, her every move, even from afar. There was no escaping his watchful eye, no sanctuary from his pervasive presence. Sarah felt her phone vibrate with his messages, each one a reminder of the inescapable path she was on, each one a subtle warning not to stray. The night before the wedding was an agony. Sarah couldn't sleep. The grand, white wedding dress hung draped over a mannequin in the corner of her room, a spectral presence in the moonlight. Instead of excitement, it evoked a profound sense of impending doom. Its pristine white fabric, once a symbol of purity and new beginnings, now felt like a shroud, a heavy, suffocating weight. Her mind raced, a chaotic storm of fear, regret, and a desperate, futile search for an escape route. Every rational thought was screaming at her to run, but every emotional fiber was paralyzed by the years of manipulation, the isolation, and the terrifying realization of how deeply she was entangled. As if to cement her despair, a messenger arrived late that night bearing a final wedding gift from Mark. It was a small, exquisitely carved wooden box tied with a silk ribbon. Inside, nestled on a bed of velvet, was a delicate silver locket. It was beautiful, antique, but as Sarah held it, it felt impossibly heavy, cold and constricting, like a tiny ornate manacle. Engraved on its surface were their initials, M+S, intertwined in an elegant script. Beside the locket was a framed photograph, a candid shot of them laughing together during their early courtship. Mark's eyes in the picture, once so charming, now seemed to hold a dark, knowing secret, a glint of something predatory that Sarah had been blind to before. The gift, intended as a romantic gesture, felt like a final, chilling statement of ownership, a promise of eternal, inescapable possession. It was a reminder that she belonged to him, that her fate was sealed. The morning of the wedding arrived, gray and still. Sarah woke feeling numb, an emptiness where her spirit used to be. The panic had subsided into a dull ache, a heavy resignation. She moved through the motions of getting ready like a marionette, her body obeying commands while her mind remained a frantic, caged bird. The stylists and makeup artists chattered around her, their voices a distant hum. Her mother, teary-eyed with joy, fussed over her veil. Emily, her face still etched with concern, tried to offer reassuring smiles. Sarah smiled back, a brittle, fragile thing that didn't reach her eyes. She was a ghost in her own body, her mind racing, trying to find a way out, any way out, but feeling utterly powerless, utterly alone. The path to the altar felt like a one-way road, and she was already too far down it to turn back. The hidden truth behind Mark's perfect smile was about to be revealed, and Sarah was walking straight into its terrifying embrace. The wedding ceremony was a blur of white lace and hushed whispers, a surreal tableau unfolding before Sarah's disbelieving eyes. She walked down the aisle, her father's arm a steadying presence, but her gaze was fixed on Mark at the altar. He stood there, a vision of a perfect groom in his tailored suit, his smile radiant, welcoming. Yet to Sarah, that smile now seemed less like an expression of joy and more like a carefully constructed facade, a mask that hid something cold and calculating beneath. A shiver, unrelated to the cool air of the church, traced a path down her spine. The joyous anticipation that should have filled her heart was replaced by a hollow dread, a chilling premonition of what awaited her. Each step felt heavy, each beat of her heart echoing the frantic rhythm of a trapped bird. After the ceremony, amidst the joyous chaos of congratulations and well-wishes, the photographer began orchestrating the formal portraits. He was a jovial man, full of energy, directing the wedding party with practiced ease. He called for Sarah and Mark, gesturing them towards a picturesque spot in the church garden, bathed in the soft glow of the late afternoon sun. "All right, perfect," he boomed, adjusting his lens. "Now, for a classic one, just the happy couple. Groom, why don't you stand just slightly behind your beautiful bride and gently take her hand behind her back? A little secret embrace for the camera, a symbol of your eternal bond." Mark, ever the eager participant in his own meticulously crafted narrative, moved into position. He placed himself behind Sarah, his left arm wrapping around her waist in a seemingly tender gesture. His right hand reached for hers, intertwining their fingers behind her back, just as the photographer had instructed. The camera clicked, capturing the moment. Mark's smile was wide, his eyes sparkling with what appeared to be pure happiness. Sarah, despite the terror coiling in her gut, managed to force a smile. Her eyes glazed over, fixed on some distant point beyond the lens. As Mark's hand clasped hers behind her back, a sudden horrifying realization dawned on Sarah. It wasn't just his hand. Her fingers brushed against something metallic and cold, something small and sharp tucked into his palm. It was a fleeting touch, almost imperceptible, but it sent a jolt of pure, unadulterated terror through her. The metallic glint was unmistakable, even through the thin fabric of her wedding dress. It was a small, wicked gleam, hidden from the world, concealed by his seemingly innocent pose. Her mind, already reeling from days of dread, snapped into sharp, terrifying focus. It was a letter opener, not a grand ceremonial dagger, but a deceptively innocuous, slender blade, its point sharpened to a fine edge. It was the kind of object one might keep on an office desk, polished and elegant, yet capable of inflicting a deep, precise wound. Its presence, so deliberately hidden, so chillingly close to her, screamed volumes without a single word being uttered. It wasn't just his hand. He was holding a weapon concealed behind her back at their wedding, in the very moment they were immortalizing their supposed union. In that instant, the entire intricate web of Mark's manipulation, his possessiveness, his controlling nature, his cold silences, and his feigned concern, coalesced into a single, terrifying truth. Mark wasn't just controlling, he was dangerous. The smile he wore, the loving words he uttered, The perfect facade he presented to the world. It was all a meticulously crafted mask, designed to conceal a predator. The hidden letter opener was not just a symbol. It was a chilling declaration of his true intentions, a silent promise of the power he intended to wield over her, a testament to the darkness that lurked beneath his charming exterior. He wasn't just marrying her. He was claiming her, and he was prepared to ensure that claim by any means necessary. A wave of raw, primal terror washed over Sarah, so potent it paralyzed her. Her heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drumbeat of fear. Her breath caught in her throat, a choked gasp that no one else seemed to notice amidst the click of the camera and the murmur of the guests. She wanted to scream, to rip herself away from him, to expose the monster standing beside her. But she couldn't. Her body was frozen, her mind screaming but her voice trapped. She could only stare blankly ahead, her lips fixed in that fragile, forced smile, knowing that behind her, Mark's hand held not just hers but a hidden blade. The photographer clicked again, immortalizing the moment, capturing the perfect picture of a happy couple, utterly oblivious to the terrifying secret hidden in plain sight. A secret only Sarah knew, a secret that threatened to consume her. She was a lamb led to slaughter, and the wolf was smiling for the camera. A sudden, desperate surge of adrenaline coursed through Sarah's veins, slicing through the paralyzing fear. She had to get away. She had to act. Her mind, though still reeling from the shocking discovery, began to race, calculating, strategizing. The photographer, oblivious, continued to give directions, adjusting lights and lenses. This was her chance. With a forced cough, Sarah clutched her stomach, her forced smile faltering into a grimace. "Oh dear," she managed to gasp, her voice thin and strained. "I suddenly feel quite dizzy. All the excitement, I suppose. I just need a moment to powder my nose, perhaps." Her eyes, wide with a terror only she understood, darted towards Emily, who was standing nearby, still looking at her with a worried frown. It was a silent plea, a desperate signal only a sister could interpret. Emily, ever perceptive, immediately understood the unspoken urgency in Sarah's eyes. She stepped forward, her hand gently but firmly on Sarah's arm. "Of course, darling," Emily said, her voice calm and reassuring, though her eyes were filled with a sudden, sharp concern. "Let's get you inside, out of the sun for a moment." Mark's smile, which had been so perfectly fixed, wavered for a fraction of a second, a flicker of annoyance crossing his features. He didn't like deviations from his carefully planned schedule, but in front of the photographer and the small gathering, he couldn't object too strenuously. He merely nodded, his eyes following Sarah and Emily as they quickly retreated towards the church building. Once inside, away from Mark's watchful gaze and the prying eyes of the guests, Sarah practically collapsed against a cold stone pillar, her body trembling uncontrollably. Her breath came in ragged gasps, and tears, hot and stinging, finally spilled down her cheeks. "Emily," she whispered, her voice barely audible. He has a knife. Behind his back, when we were taking the photo. A letter opener, sharp." Emily's eyes widened in horror, her hand flying to her mouth. She didn't need to ask for clarification. She had seen the subtle shifts in Sarah, the growing fear, the forced smiles. This chilling revelation confirmed all her worst suspicions. "We have to go," Emily said, her voice firm, taking charge. "Now. We can't stay here." But Sarah shook her head, a new resolve hardening her gaze. "No, we can't just run. He'll come after us. He'll find us. We need proof, something to expose him." Her mind, still operating on a mix of terror and adrenaline, was surprisingly clear. The image of Mark's hidden weapon, captured forever in the photographer's camera, became her focus. "The photo," she breathed. "The photographer. He must have it. He captured it." But even as the words left her lips, Mark's voice, dangerously calm, echoed from the entrance of the church. "Sarah, darling, are you feeling better? Everyone's waiting." His perfect smile was back in place, but his eyes, when they landed on Sarah, held a cold, hard stare that sent another wave of dread through her. He was already looking for her, his patience clearly wearing thin. His carefully constructed facade was barely holding. Emily, thinking quickly, stepped in front of Sarah, blocking Mark's direct view. She just needed a moment, Mark. The heat, you know. She'll be out in a moment, just needs to freshen up. Mark's eyes narrowed, but he offered a tight smile. Of course. Don't be too long, my love. We have a schedule, after all. The underlying threat in his seemingly benign words was palpable. Sarah, leaning heavily on Emily, quickly devised a plan. It was risky, desperate, but it was their only shot. "Emily," she whispered, "you have to go to the photographer. Tell him there was a problem with the last shot. You need to see it. Tell him you saw something in the background, a smudge, anything. Just get him to show you the picture, the one we just took." Emily nodded, her face grim but determined. She knew the stakes. As Emily slipped away, pretending to adjust her own hair, Sarah forced herself to walk towards Mark, her heart pounding a frantic rhythm against her ribs. She pasted on a weak, apologetic smile. "So sorry, darling. Just a little faint. I'm fine now." Mark's arm immediately went around her waist, a gesture that now felt less like affection and more like a possessive grip. His fingers subtly pressed into her side, a silent reminder of his control. Meanwhile, Emily found the photographer, who was now setting up for family portraits. She approached him with an air of polite urgency. "Excuse me, sir," she began. "I'm Emily, Sarah's sister. About that last shot you took of Sarah and Mark, I think there might have been a tiny issue. A reflection or perhaps a smudge on the lens. Could I possibly just take a quick look at it on your camera? Just to be sure." The photographer, a professional who prided himself on perfection, hesitated for a moment. Then, with a good-natured shrug, agreed. "Of course, miss. Always happy to ensure client satisfaction." He scrolled through the images, finally landing on the one of Sarah and Mark, smiling, with Mark's hand behind her back. Emily's breath hitched. There it was. The glint of silver, the slender, unmistakable outline of the letter opener, tucked neatly into Mark's palm, hidden from the casual observer, but glaringly obvious once you knew what to look for. It was a chilling piece of evidence, a silent scream frozen in time. Emily quickly took out her phone, pretending to admire the shot, and in a swift, subtle movement, snapped a photo of the camera screen. The digital copy now existed, indisputable proof. "Perfect," Emily said, feigning relief. "No, it looks absolutely fine. My mistake, just my eyes playing tricks on me. Thank you so much." She quickly rejoined Sarah, who was still trapped under Mark's watchful eye. Emily's eyes met Sarah's, a silent message passing between them. "I have it. We have proof." The wedding, for all intents and purposes, was called off. The moment Emily showed the photo to Sarah's parents, the facade of the perfect wedding crumbled instantly. Sarah, emboldened by the undeniable evidence and the unwavering support of her family, finally found her voice. She recounted Mark's controlling behavior, the isolation, the subtle threats, the chilling discovery. Her father, his face pale with shock and rage, immediately confronted Mark. Mark's reaction was a terrifying spectacle. His perfect smile vanished, replaced by a mask of cold fury. He denied everything, his voice rising in outrage, accusing Sarah and her family of fabricating lies, of trying to ruin his life. But when Emily presented the photographic evidence, the image on her phone clearly showing the glint of the letter opener behind Sarah's back, Mark's composure shattered. For a moment, a raw, unadulterated hatred flashed in his eyes, directed at Sarah, a look so menacing it confirmed every single one of her darkest fears. Then, in a chilling display of calculated self-preservation, his rage transformed into a cold, almost serene calmness. He simply stared at the image, then back at Sarah, a faint, chilling smile playing on his lips, as if acknowledging a game well played, a secret finally revealed. The wedding was over, but the true battle had just begun. Mark's calm, almost serene smile as he looked at the incriminating photo was perhaps the most terrifying thing of all. It wasn't the rage of a man caught. but the chilling acceptance of a predator whose true nature had been unveiled. He knew the game was up, at least for this particular charade, and there was a strange, unsettling satisfaction in his eyes, as if he found some perverse pleasure in being exposed. He didn't flee. He didn't even try to snatch the phone from Emily's hand. Instead, he simply turned and walked away, his perfect posture never wavering, disappearing into the chaotic murmurs of the now disrupted wedding party. The guests, initially confused, quickly grasped the gravity of the situation as Sarah's father, his face still etched with fury, began explaining to a small cluster of trusted relatives what had just transpired. The news spread like wildfire, igniting whispers of disbelief, horror, and a chilling understanding among those who had always found Mark a little too perfect, a little too intense. The police were called, but Mark was long gone. He had vanished as swiftly and cleanly as he had appeared in Willow Creek, leaving behind only the lingering stench of betrayal and the chilling image of a hidden blade. The investigation began immediately, spurred by the photographic evidence and Sarah's harrowing testimony. What unfolded over the following weeks was a tapestry of deception far more intricate and sinister than anyone could have imagined. Through police interrogation of Mark's former colleagues and acquaintances, and a deeper dive into his past, a horrifying pattern emerged. Mark, whose real name was eventually discovered to be Arthur Finch, had a history of manipulation and isolation that stretched back years. Sarah wasn't his first target. She was merely the latest in a long line of women he had systematically ensnared, controlled, and then, in some cases, disappeared. The police uncovered several unexplained disappearances in other small towns across the country, all linked to a man fitting Mark's description, a man who had moved frequently, leaving no digital footprint, no social media presence, just a trail of broken hearts and vanished lives. There were 2 confirmed cases where women he had been engaged to, women who had, like Sarah, become increasingly isolated and withdrawn, simply vanished without a trace, their cases eventually going cold. Their families had been left with nothing but unanswered questions and a gnawing sense of dread. There were no bodies, no clear evidence of foul play, just the eerie silence of absence. Arthur Finch, or Mark, was a master of his craft, a chameleon who blended seamlessly into new communities, weaving a web of charm and calculated affection before revealing his true predatory self. The hidden letter opener, initially dismissed by some as merely a bizarre gesture, took on a terrifying new significance. It wasn't just a random item. Further investigation into the disappearances revealed a chilling detail. In both unsolved cases, the missing women had been found to have small, almost surgical incisions on their hands or wrists, injuries that had been dismissed as accidental or self-inflicted during the initial, less rigorous investigations. The letter opener, with its fine, sharp point, perfectly matched the characteristics of the tool that could have inflicted such precise wounds. The why behind his actions was a twisted labyrinth of psychological pathology. It wasn't just about control, although that was a significant component. It was about something far darker, a perverse need to possess, to erase the individuality of his victims, to transform them into extensions of his own warped desires. The perfect image he cultivated was not just for public consumption. It was a reflection of his own delusion, a fragile construct he was willing to protect at any cost. The letter opener was not meant to kill in plain sight. It was a tool for intimidation, a silent threat, a physical manifestation of the power he intended to wield, a means to ensure absolute compliance. It was a macabre memento, a symbol of his control over the women he sought to dominate, perhaps even a fetishistic item connected to his dark rituals. It was a tangible link to his past victims, a trophy he carried, a reminder of his twisted triumphs. He wasn't just hiding a weapon, he was hiding a part of his monstrous identity, a piece of his gruesome history. Sarah, despite the profound trauma, found a strength she never knew she possessed. The terror of that day, the realization of what she had narrowly escaped, transformed her. She became a pivotal figure in the investigation. her vivid recollections and keen observations providing crucial insights into Mark's manipulative tactics. She testified, not just to the police, but later in court, her voice clear and unwavering as she recounted the subtle gaslighting, the increasing isolation, the chilling discovery of the hidden blade. She shared her story not just for herself, but for the other women, the ones who had vanished, the ones whose voices had been silenced. Her bravery became a beacon, inspiring others who had encountered similar manipulative individuals to come forward. The wedding photo, once a symbol of what should have been the happiest day of her life, was now a chilling piece of evidence. It was no longer just a picture of a smiling couple. It was a snapshot of a moment where pure darkness had been inches away from an unsuspecting bride. The slight anomaly, the glint of metal behind Mark's back, was no longer a subtle detail. With all the revelations, it became the most terrifying thing in the picture. A stark warning frozen in time, a silent scream captured forever. It was a testament to the insidious nature of evil, how it could hide behind a perfect smile, how it could masquerade as love, waiting for the opportune moment to strike. The photo became a symbol of vigilance, a reminder that appearances can be deceiving, and that sometimes the most dangerous threats are the ones hidden in plain sight. Sarah carried the weight of that image, not as a burden, but as a solemn reminder of her survival, and a powerful motivation to ensure that Mark, or Arthur Finch, would never harm another soul. Years later, the echoes of that harrowing day still resonated within Sarah, a constant, low hum beneath the surface of her rebuilt life. The journey of healing had been long and arduous, a winding path through therapy, self-reflection, and the slow, deliberate process of reclaiming her identity. She had been shattered, a mosaic of fear and disbelief, but she was not broken. From the fragments, she had forged a new Sarah, one imbued with a resilience she never knew she possessed, a quiet strength born from surviving the unimaginable. She had found solace in art once more, her canvases now vibrant with colors that defied the darkness she had faced, telling stories of hope and recovery. The incident had irrevocably altered her trajectory, but it had not defined her in the way Mark had intended. Instead, she channeled her trauma into purpose. She became an advocate, volunteering at organizations that supported victims of domestic abuse and psychological manipulation. Her story, shared with quiet dignity, became a powerful tool, a cautionary tale whispered with compassion and understanding. She spoke at workshops. Her voice, once nearly silenced by fear, now resonated with conviction, urging others to trust their instincts, to recognize the subtle red flags that often precede overt danger. She taught them about the insidious nature of gaslighting, the slow erosion of self-worth, the critical importance of maintaining connections with loved ones who could see through the charming masks of predators. She used her experience to illuminate the shadows, helping others find their way out of similar traps, or better yet, avoid them entirely. Mark, or Arthur Finch as he was now formally known, met the fate he so richly deserved. Thanks to Sarah's unwavering testimony and the irrefutable photographic evidence, combined with the diligent work of law enforcement, he was apprehended months later in a remote town, attempting to weave his web around another unsuspecting woman. His charm, once his most potent weapon, withered under the harsh glare of justice. Stripped of his carefully constructed facade, he was revealed for the hollow, dangerous man he truly was. The trials were grueling, a painful reliving of the nightmare, but Sarah faced them with courage. Arthur Finch was convicted on multiple counts, including the disappearances of the two women who had vanished before Sarah. He was sentenced to life imprisonment, his reign of terror brought to a definitive end. The world outside the prison walls no longer had to fear his predatory smile, his insidious manipulations. His true self, cold and calculating, was exposed for all to see, confined to a place where he could no longer inflict his particular brand of cruelty. Yet even with Arthur imprisoned, the memory of that day and that chilling photograph lingered. It wasn't a constant torment, but a quiet, ever-present shadow at the periphery of her consciousness. It served as a stark reminder of how easily evil could hide behind a perfect smile, how readily darkness could masquerade as love. The image, once a source of terror, had evolved into a symbol of her survival, a testament to the fragile line between perceived happiness and hidden horror. She kept a copy of it, not out of morbid fascination, but as a tangible representation of her past, a reminder of the insidious nature of evil and of her own strength. It was a trophy of her survival, a visual anchor to the lessons learned. The message she carried and passionately shared was a profound one. Trust your gut. That small, persistent whisper of unease, that nagging feeling that something is amiss, it's rarely wrong. Red flags, however subtle, are not to be ignored. They are vital warnings, signals from our deepest intuition, urging us to pay attention. The seemingly innocent possessiveness, the gentle criticisms that chip away at self-esteem, the isolation from friends and family, the sudden shifts in mood. These are not signs of deep love, but often precursors to control and abuse. She emphasized the importance of a strong support system, of having people in your life who love you enough to speak uncomfortable truths, to ask difficult questions, and to stand by you when you need them most. Had Emily not been there, had she not acted on Sarah's desperate, unspoken plea, the outcome could have been tragically different. Revisiting the wedding portrait now, years later, with all the revelations, the hidden object behind Mark's back was no longer a subtle detail. It was the unequivocal focal point, eclipsing the smiling faces, the beautiful attire, the joyous backdrop. The glint of the letter opener, once almost imperceptible, now gleamed with a sinister luminescence, casting a long, dark shadow over the entire image. It was no longer just a photographic anomaly. It was a stark warning, a frozen moment of profound danger, a chilling testament to the capacity for darkness veiled beneath the veneer of normalcy. The picture served as a silent, powerful sermon, a perpetual reminder that even in the brightest, most celebrated moments of life, one must remain vigilant. For sometimes, the greatest threats are those hidden in plain sight, behind a perfect smile with a sinister blade clutched tightly in a hand behind one's back. Sarah had escaped that frame, but its lesson would forever be etched into the fabric of her being, a testament to her harrowing journey and a beacon for others to follow.